Now, the remarkable rescue of 23-year-old Hadi Nazari from Kosciuszko National Park yesterday really focused attention on safety while hiking. The Melbourne student was missing for an extraordinary 13 days when he was found alive and well. He's still being treated for dehydration at Cooma Hospital, but has released a statement thanking all of the hundreds of rescuers and volunteers who searched for him. And while the circumstances of how Hadi survived for almost 2 weeks are yet to really come to light, professional hikers are urging people in this moment to do their research before attempting difficult terrain, just in order to maximise their chances of survival in case they also face tough circumstances. Caro Ryan is a hiking safety advocate with lots of fresh air, an SES search and rescue volunteer, and she also hosts an outdoor podcast for hikers and adventurers called Rescued. Welcome, Caro.
Hello, Kylie. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
As an SES volunteer, you have lots of experience with search and rescue operations. What's going through your mind when you're out searching for someone who's missing?
So many things. But one of the great things about the training that we do and the teams that we work in is that we're constantly focused on the task at hand, and it's not just we need to find this person. It's we need to maintain our own safety. We need to be keeping front of mind the skills and the evidence that we're looking for that someone's been passing through an area. So it's not just the obvious things like, hey, we found, there was the rubbish that was found, there was his camera case that had been found. It's also looking for signs and evidence in the landscape and in the vegetation that someone's moved through there. Like that could have been footprints, or it could have been broken branches and twigs. So it's also thinking about, longevity and what's the best strategy of keeping up this search. Is it to do, which we did on this search, which was to put people into the bush and have them stay overnight. And that's something that there's a couple of different units within SES who do that. So they go out for 3 days, and also the Volunteer Rescue Association who are out there with us as well. So lots of things to keep in mind. But one of the great things is there's this system called command and control, which means that even though that the police are the lead agency in situations like this, everybody's singing from the same song sheet. We know exactly what we're out there to do, and we have the skills and capabilities to go and do it.
As you mentioned, you were part of that search team for Hadi while it was active. He was missing for almost 2 weeks, and that terrain is tough. What did he do right that helped him survive, do you think, for so long?
Yeah, I think one of the key things that showed us he was smart and knew the importance of water to survival was that those bits of evidence that our teams were finding were actually in the watercourses or alongside the watercourses. And it was showing to us that he was travelling through or beside creeks, so making sure that water was part of his strategy. And that's really key. Like, you can survive a long time without food, but water, and especially in the temperatures that we had down there, is absolutely essential. So yeah, he was making sure he had access to water, which was great.
Now, there's always a lot of talk about preparing for a bushwalk or a hike, and I think a lot of us kind of tend to nod when we're asked whether or not we're prepared. But really, what does good preparation look like?
Oh, such a good question. So preparation is the key, and it's so easy to sort of have these dreams of this beautiful, experience out in the bush from a lookout or a waterfall, and you sort of want to jump straight to there. But that preparation is absolutely key, not just for keeping yourself safe, but to make sure you have a great time. So there's actually this really handy acronym that you can use to remember how to prepare, and that's TREK, T-R-E-K, and it's part of this campaign called Think Before You Trek that the New South Wales National Parks and Police Rescue up in the Blue Mountains where I live put together a few years ago. And that stands for T, take what you need. That's everything like food and water and first aid kit. Know how to use it, equip yourself by doing a first aid course. Taking a warm layer of clothes, making sure you're wearing the right clothes in the first place, and even choosing bright colours of clothes rather than the typical greys or khakis you might see in outdoor stores is a great choice too. Having some form of emergency communication, like a satellite communication, because so many times our wild places take us outside of phone coverage. So making sure you've got a way of connecting and calling for help if you need to. Then the R is register your intention. So that's just tell someone where you're going, tell them what time you'll be back, and then let them know when you are. So if you do get lost, we know where to start looking for you. E is that emergency beacon. So sometimes people think of them as an EPIRB, but a PLB, a personal locator beacon. They're lightweight, they're small. You can borrow them from some national parks offices. You can rent them from other places. You can buy your own. Absolutely life-saving. And K is know your route and stick to it. So doing good research, choosing the right walk for you, choosing the right hike, something that's within your capabilities. So doing a bit of research, going, I really want to get to that lookout, but oh gosh, there's 1,000 stairs to get there. Maybe that's not for everyone, you know. So choosing the hike you're going to love and enjoy, that's going to be within your capabilities. So that's the best way to prepare. TREK, trek.
Of course, the goal is not to get stuck or lost, and you can have done a lot of preparation, but I'm guessing if you find yourself in that situation, if you suddenly find that you don't know where you are, it must be very hard to just calm yourself down and make sure that you remember, you know, the resources, the preparation you have done.
Yeah, and look, do you know what? You've absolutely struck on the key number one thing when you get lost or when you realise you're lost or something's not going to plan, and that's to stop and calm yourself down. It's super hard to do. You know, our monkey brains want to race off and make poor decisions, but by giving yourself the time to really think through things is absolutely going to put you in the best position, A, to be found or to find where you are yourself. So there's two choices. You can either attempt self-rescue at that point, which is what Hadi has chosen to do. And then the other thing is to call in the cavalry. So use those communication devices. You might even be in phone coverage. Call, especially using the Emergency Plus app, which is the free app that you can have on your phone. If you've got coverage, that'll give you a great location that you can share with the 000. And then because you've calmed yourself down, you're making wise decisions, you're taking stock of your resources. What food do you have? What water do you have? How do you have shelter? Really key thing is having shelter. And Hadi had a tent with him. He was on an overnight, a multi-day trip, so he had that to be able to stay out of the elements. And then it's checking yourself, and I like to suggest to people to set an alarm on their phone, like say, well, for 10 minutes I'm going to try and find myself. And I think the track was just up the top of the hill over there, that kind of thing. And then the alarm is that little check to yourself to calm that monkey brain again and just say, hey, wait, hang on, I've been going for 10 minutes. Have I found the track yet? And if the answer's no, then ask yourself again, should I call in the cavalry now? Or do I sit tight, set up my tent, stay put, which is a really, really good strategy. And that way, because you've told someone where you're going, we know where to come and look for you and find you.
It's 24 minutes past 8 on Radio National Breakfast. Caro Ryan is a hiking safety advocate with lots of fresh air, here discussing how to stay safe in the bush. Caro, we've had a couple of texts from listeners. On the text line, Jez from Bowral is sharing some advice. He's said, firstly, don't leave your group. Stay on tracks, stay on the higher ground where you can be seen. He suggests always, of course, carrying a map and a compass. And once you realise you're lost, reflecting exactly what you've just been talking about, Caro, Jez says, take a beat, think about your options.
Yeah.
Jay, meanwhile, another listener has texted in. Thanks for this, Jay. He says, when hiking unfamiliar territory, look back every 50 metres or so you can recognise the return trip when you decide to go back. What do you make of those ideas? I think the Radio National Breakfast listenership is delivering in a fairly major way.
Oh, they are absolutely delivering. Jez and Jay, amazing, and absolutely ticks to all of that for sure. So looking for the high ground, and that's one of the strategies in trying to self-rescue. If I get myself up high, will I have a better perspective and see maybe back where the track is or where my car is and that kind of thing. And it's one of the key things to consider when you're doing self-rescue is just make sure you're not putting yourself in any more danger. Are you getting yourself more lost? or, certainly don't try and climb a tree or climb a cliff if you're thinking you need to get high. That's not a great idea. And staying with the group. So I would never recommend hiking solo. And so it was great that Hadi was there with his two mates to begin with. It's when you look at the statistics of people who do go missing in the bush, the statistics around solo is actually really, really high. And also with people who suffer an injury, there's no one there to help them if something happens. So being with a group, keeping to high ground. And the great thing about that is making yourself visible to rescue. So when all that wonderful air support comes over, when the helicopters come over, or the drones are flying looking for you, if you're in a cleared area, maybe on a little rock platform, something like that, or up above the tree line, which is where Hadi was eventually found, up above all that heavy, thick, dense vegetation, you're going to be in a much better position. And again, those bright coloured clothes you might be wearing, or a tent, or an emergency space blanket, the silver foil blankets are great for drawing attention. A head torch at night, or a torch, or even a camera flash for those carrying old-fashioned cameras with flashes on them. Anything you can do to make yourself visible, and also audio. So it's really hard to call out, especially for a long time. Carrying a little whistle with you, and some packs these days even have a little whistle built into the chest strap on the backpack. So yeah, lots of different things. If it's safe, even a signal fire might be a way to go, with lots of smoke but not much flame. And just make sure it's controllable, so when that air support comes in, you can put it out really quickly.
There has been an increase in hikers and bushwalkers getting stuck and needing rescue, it seems, over the summer. Tasmania saw their busiest weekend for rescues of the season last weekend. Why do you think there has been an increase in people finding themselves in trouble? Is it simply in keeping with how many more of us are out doing these activities at this time of year, or is it telling us something else?
It's such a good question. I think it's actually telling us a lot of things. And you're right in that, yes, there's more of us accessing. Our population is growing, right? So there's more of us wanting to connect and get all these great things that we know nature gives us. It's the benefits to mental health. It's the benefits to physical health. It's being in community and walking with other people and having a shared experience. It's like we're desiring this stuff. And especially after lockdowns and COVID, we've seen an increase in visitation to parks and natural spaces. So I think it's telling us there's a lot more of us out there, but there's also a lot more access to information that may not be verified. So when you start doing your research of where you want to go walking, or choosing the right walk for you, or the hike, whatever it is, think about the information that you're reading, and has it been verified by official sources? So there's loads of great apps and websites and blogs and all sorts of places you can go to find this information. But even check in with the land manager. So that's the national parks in the area that you are, because those folks, they are the experts. So look for them. Look to join a bushwalking club, because, great. The thing you'll be pleased to know is that bushwalking clubs, can be thought of as a bit daggy in the past and a bit old-fashioned, like what your grandma used to walk with. But I tell you what, these days they are full of really experienced, passionate people who love these places, who are happy to share that information with you and to sort of give you an apprenticeship into the bush. But I think the thing about calling for help, and that we never want to hesitate, we never want people to hesitate to call for help if they need it. So by having all these people calling and pressing PLB buttons, pressing for emergencies, it's great that it's showing us that message of carrying emergency comms is getting through. So that's a real benefit. And there's a quote from Sergeant Dal Atkinson up here in the Blue Mountains, who says, if you think you need to call for help, you probably do. And I think if we can be pushing out also these messages of safety. In some ways, we think in Australia very much about swim between the flags for public safety at beaches. But I think getting some messages out for safe bushwalking and hiking in those similar kind of campaigns would be a really great step forward, and something we need.
No doubt. I'm sure there's more that we could do with public messaging around this. Listen, Caro, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Great to be here. Thanks, Kylie.
Caro Ryan, a hiking safety advocate with lots of fresh air, and you can find lots of outdoor safety resources on her website. And she was also one of the many SES volunteers assisting in the search for Hadi Nazari. Radio National Breakfast, and it's 8:30. Time for some news headlines with Richard